around today because I want to explain about the virtual orchard.
Well, what is a virtual orchard?
This is the idea that in Harborough there's very little land for people to actually have orchards to grow lots of apple trees together. But I think that there's quite a few people who've got garden space to grow 1 or 2 apple trees or trees in their garden. So the idea is that if I'd like to grow an extra 100 apple trees in Harborough and these feed-in villages to increase the amount of local free food for people in the town. And so my plan is to have these apple grafting sessions, so people can then take 2 grafted apples home and plant them in their own garden. And then the virtual orchard comes because I'm going to take photographs of the newly grafted apple tree, and then they can plant in a garden, and then each year as the tree grows we'll take another photograph of the tree, and this will be happening in everyone who's come onto the grafting workshop. They'll all be growing their apples in their garden.
Yeah, I think this is a super idea because otherwise no one, people that don't have a suitable site to grow lots of trees will just feel excluded. I think it's really good that we're going to get lots of people involved in a small way over the whole of the county.
And the other good idea is, the idea I had was that people can come to the grafting courses, have a grafted apple tree and keep it in a pot for a year or 2 until it's established, and then decide whether to plant in their own garden or nearby growing space or give it away to somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't exclude people if they haven't got a garden at this stage.
Yeah, I think that's good. And well, you're probably not aware, but if you look at most of the commercial apple varieties that have been bred since the 1920s, 90% of them are descended from just 6 varieties, which is, well, inbreeding at its worst, really. So
we're going around finding Leicestershire Heritage Apple trees which have grown in the area, have evidence they've been growing in this area for many decades. Mm. But we're also including trees that are people's favourite apple trees, which taste good, store well, fruit early,
yes.
Fruit late.
Yes, yes.
And so not all of these are classical Leicestershire Heritage Apple trees, but are certainly local.
But that doesn't matter though, because
locally grown.
Locally grown, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So it's really worth doing. I mean, for example, this variety here, Orleans Renette.
Yeah.
That's quite. Is that quite a late apple?
Now,
I don't know much about that one.
No, I don't. I'm going to refer to the. I'm collecting information in my folder about all the different varieties. This one comes from Cottersbatch Estate near Lutterworth.
Yes.
And so, though I don't think it's a classical Leicestershire Heritage Apple tree, it's been chosen because of its good eating and cooking properties.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good.
And coming back to the virtual orchard, as I'm going to take photographs of all these trees and put them all onto one page on my newly formed website, which is called the Grafters and Growers website. And so all the pictures of the trees will form my virtual orchard. But also I'm going to note the postcode of where each of the grafted apple trees is planted and map that onto the map on the website. So if you want to know where all the Orleans Renette's apple trees are, you can look at the map, select for Orleans Renette's and find there's perhaps 3 different growers of this apple tree in the local area. So you can visit them and perhaps take scions from them for further grafting or taste them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, sounds excellent.
One of the main problems we have with a lot of these rarer varieties is that we haven't got enough good wood to graft with, enough good scions. And so knowing other growers will be really useful.
frequently people have a lovely apple tree, but they're not quite sure of what the name of it is. And so having apple trees with a definite name, those people can grow that apple tree and become knowledgeable about that particular apple tree. For example, the Orleans Renette again.
Yes.
They'll know approximately when it flowers and when it fruits and how long it can store, if it tastes good. And so if I suddenly want to know more about the Orleans apple tree, I can go into my map, see where they're located, and go and visit that person who will be able to tell me more about it.
That's a good idea, yes.
The other thing is you'd be able to compare it with other apples. So which are flowering at the same time or fruiting at the same time.
Yeah.
Or perhaps you'll be browsing through and you'll be able to say, oh, that one is an early one, that one's a late one. And you'll be able to do a search, I assume, for all the late ones, early ones and in between.
Each year we're going to get more sophistication built into our recording mechanisms so we can get more easily accessible information such as that.
Yeah, good.
And each person who has their own apple tree, I'm calling them apple tree guardians. So they particularly take notice of what's happening with their own apple tree variety.
Yeah, the reason we're having to learn or relearn this old skill of grafting is if you sow pips of an apple tree, you don't actually get the same tree that you started with. So you have to use grafting. And this is a very valuable old skill for anyone that is keen on growing fruit, or tree fruits anyway.
Okay. Have you told Judith about what I'm doing with the balls?
Oh, yes.
The growing globes.
Yes, Julie is doing something very interesting. She's doing a technique called air layering, using cutting globes. And this is a device for holding moss and other soft material that you can dampen around a branch, so the branch roots. So
you're scraping an inch of bark all the way around, putting some rooting powder on. You put a full one of these globes, it's in two halves, you clip it together, and one half's got a sort of protective cover, and these ones are red, the other's transparent. You put the red side south facing, and then after 8 weeks you've basically got a new tree.
Well, that's the theory. We're hoping that apple trees do this, but we don't know if they will respond like that, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Because we talk about the rootstock, who just love making roots, compared to these other standard apple trees that are very reluctant to make roots, and so it'd be interesting to see if that's...
Yes, if you try to take cuttings of an ordinary standard apple tree like this, and you put hormone powder on the end and put this in a pot, it's virtually 100% certain that will die.
Right.
So ordinary apples don't usually like rooting.
Okay.
Not from cuttings.
So I just need to find some to experiment with.
Yeah, but it's quite possible that this method that you've got might increase the probability a lot.
Yeah. You can use it on all sorts of cuttings.
Yes.
So I'm going to be using it on all different...
I know it works with rubber plants. I've seen that done lots of times.
Yeah.
So which variety have you started?
I've only started on one at the minute, and I've got it on a Braeburn.
Right, yes.
Because that's the one I've got on the allotment. That's the only apple tree I've got. But I've got about 70 of these globes what I've purchased.
Ah, amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could try on some of my little trees, perhaps.
Yeah.
Some of the different varieties.
Yeah.
So you have to have a controlled experiment about different varieties and different conditions.
Yeah, yeah.
Because basically it's going to all root, you see, in that ball, and then you know. Now you should see all the roots before you take it off, and then at the 8-week mark you just chop it off just below the ball, and then you plant it in your pot, and you've got your new 2-year tree or whatever.
So I presume you're doing that in the spring?
You can do it any time apparently, but
yes, but I think the spring's best.
Spring's best, yeah.
Right, yes, when the growth hormone is rising, the sap is rising.
Yes, yes.
Shall we take a break for a moment?
Okay. Okay, this afternoon we're going to have a go at making a few trees. I've got some scion wood here. These are actually cuttings from the variety of tree that we want to construct.
Okay.
And the trees that we're going to construct are going to be made half from this, the cutting, or the scion as it's called,
Okay.
and half from the rootstock.
Why is it called a scion? Is it just a posh name, or?
Well, it's the name that grafters use for cuttings.
Okay. Is it a Latin or something? Does it go back?
Did you do Latin?
I would say it's more Greek.
Greek.
I'd have to look it up in the
Yeah,
dictionary.
but it is a very ancient word.
Ancient, right? Okay.
But I'm afraid I don't know the origin of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the scions. Now, if we try to root this by putting rooting powder on it and sticking it in a pot, it will die. Virtually certain that it will die, because apples don't root like that. But if we splice this onto a root that's already formed, that's compatible with it, we can actually make a tree from the two parts.
Okay.
And the root that we use from that is usually part of a rootstock. It's called a rootstock. And you can buy them or you can grow them yourself.
Okay, and you get different ones. Sometimes you'll see it where it says dwarf and...
That's right, and the rootstock determines, first of all, it supplies the root for the cutting so it will grow.
Yeah.
And secondly, it determines the vigour of the tree, which means basically the size.
Okay.
Now I've got the MM106 rootstock here, but I'm trying to keep... I don't want them to dry out, so I've covered them in soil, so I'll just... And because it's very messy, I'm going to put it straight into my bag. It's quite a nice lot of roots there. Put that into my bag. Now if I remember it right, I'm going to do it about... I'm going to choose to do it about here. Oh, these are my scions.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can find a good scion to would fit nicely, about the same
About the
thickness.
same size, yeah. This one's too thick, I think. Yeah, that'll do.
Should we do this one?
Yeah.
So I spent ages trying to match them up so I get them facing approximately. And you can,
Do you want me to zoom in? There we are.
yeah, you can see it's. So I'm going to graft approximately there. So let's just cut this off. Oops. And I'm really careful not to mix up the rootstock and the scion. So I'm going to immediately put this, without putting it down, into my rootstock collection, which is here.
Yeah, because amazingly, they will root. Rootstocks, when you put them into damp compost,
Yeah.
2/3 of them, of this particular variety of rootstock, will form roots on their own.
Okay.
No hormone powder or anything.
So now it won't be exact until I've done the. I can see that the wood builds up. It has a sort of zigzag pattern according to the buds, so I'm trying to match.
Yeah.
Which is not exact. It takes a long time to get it to be approximate. So there, I'm going to go for that one.
Okay.
So I'm going to cut off the lower part of the scion because it's a bit dried out actually. And I've got a fresh bit there. And I want to remember which side I match them up. And with my very sharp knife, I'm going to use a Stanley blade.
Okay.
I've got lots of gloves here because I'm very worried that someone's going to cut themselves. But I'm going to use the technique, I'm just going to cut away, make sure that Nigel is at a safe distance. I think you're meant to do this with one fell cut.
Yes, it helps if you can.
Let's see whether that works. So I've approximately matched it up.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to remember that's the side I'm going to take.
So is there like about 1.25 inches overlap? Is that
About
right?
that, yeah.
Yeah.
We're saying this year we've got slightly thicker scion wood, so it's less bendy, so it's more difficult to match up.
Yeah, that's right. Thin scions are harder to handle, but they're more flexible. So in some ways, they're a bit more forgiving when you're joining them together.
And so often I do a scalpel cut.
Yeah, you've got to try and keep it a flat cut. That's what you're after. Oh, hello, C.
Oh yeah. You come and join us. Thanks. Another grafter, all more the merrier.
Hi.
Now, so much of my wonderful matching up. I've got about 1 centimetre which I've matched up. So I'm going to, oh goodness. I'm probably just going to take a tiny bit more off.
Can I do one as well?
Yes. You've got a... See, do you want to come and join us? We're talking our way through doing pruning. So
Sure.
we've got rootstock and Rainette, Orlean Rainette cedar.
That sounds good. There are your secateurs.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
They are yours,
It's
aren't they? I
right
don't know
here.
how they got in my pocket, sorry. We were pruning the community orchard in Great Glen yesterday
Oh, that's good.
to give us the sign wood for today.
Yes. All carefully labelled, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It went
excellent.
into a labelled bag. Yeah.
It's quite a cold job to do it this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
We've got
windy
lots of
side.
windy areas, so we.
And I managed to get Judith's secateurs in my pocket.
Oh, look at that, join up. I don't think I can see any gaps.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think that will live,
Oh,
I think.
nice one.
But I have to look at it from several directions because what looks good one side looks bad the other side.
Yes,
I can still see a slight gap actually.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
Now I've got to put this down and prepare my tape,
Yes.
which I forgot to do
I
before.
forgot to bring tape. Have you got a spare?
Yes, there's some here. There is some more in the next room, which I'll bring out.
I totally forgot about tape.
Now
I've got some spare tape in my box.
Great. So these are the rootstock, yeah?
They're the cuttings. The rootstocks are there.
These are the rootstock.
Yeah, these are with next year's rootstocks when
Right,
they've
okay.
rooted.
So I'm using, this is like meeple tape. This year's meeple tape, this brown, seems to be slightly less strong than my previous.
What sort of tape is that?
I call it meeple. Now I wonder if I've still got the packet in here. No, microporous tape from Sainsbury's Healthcare.
Oh, right.
Oh, it's medical tape.
It's medical
Yeah.
tape.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right, so this is the sign wood you're using.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I've been very organised. I've got 100 rootstock
Mm.
and we've got about 15 different varieties.
Yeah.
So I'll show you my list just over here. You can lean over. For each variety, I'm going to do a certain number of MM106
Yeah.
rootstocks,
Okay.
and I've got 10 of the dwarfing M9 rootstocks.
Right.
So for the Bramley seedling, I'm going to do 4 on MM106
Yeah.
and 2 on the dwarfing rootstock.
Right. Okay.
So we're up here, we're doing Orleans Reinettes. These are the
Okay.
signs from Cotterspatch Estate.
Right. Okay.
Now we've just
And you're
started.
aiming to do
We're only going to
four.
do 4.
And
So Nigel's doing one, I'm
you've
doing
got
one.
one, Nigel.
Yeah.
You've got one,
You can do
Judith, and I've picked one up. Okay.
Have you got...
So I've got it from here.
Yes.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
And if you look at my box, there may be some more equipment there. Doing this inside, the roots are drying out, so I'm going
Yeah.
to try and keep things in bags.
Oh, that's a good idea. Have you got a spare bag?
Now I think there may be, that's a small bag there. Try that one. That might be a big one actually.
This will be big enough.
It's really good. This floor is very easily sweep-upable.
Yeah.
Couldn't do this on a carpet. So now I've prepared.
Right, let's zoom in onto this. Where are we? Oh yeah, I can see. Hey, folks, look at that. Can you see?
I don't know if you can
Oh,
see.
you've moved it up.
Oops. And if you turn it round, it's called the church window, when you can see that lower little bit which looks like a church window. And another little church window at the top. I don't know what the significance of that is, except that's what... I've got it maximally
So
put it together.
basically, you're kind of matching it up so it looks like a continuous
That's right,
cutting.
yeah.
Is that what?
You want the living wood of the scion to be in touch with the living wood of the
I've got you.
rootstock.
So it's the side to side that's important. So you've got to have one matching, haven't you?
If you look round here, Julie,
So,
this side is
it's alright, I
matched up.
can't.
Oh, can you
When
see it now?
No, hang on. Sorry about this, folks. If you can try and keep it in the same position, otherwise, because I'm zoomed right in.
Sorry, shall I keep it in
Where
that
are we
position
doing?
now?
Near your thumb now? Yeah.
On this side,
Yeah.
I've not matched it up at all.
Okay.
That doesn't matter as long as on the other side I've got perfect
Totally
match up.
matched up.
Okay.
Matched up.
And I'll have to keep adjusting it until it's absolutely perfect. And now I'm going to put the
You see,
tape.
we're showing this all on video, but you need to be here to actually appreciate it. You're not going to. You really need to go to a grafting workshop, folks, to
It's also the practice.
practice. Yeah.
We've had Nigel's grafting workshop, where people just did 2 grafts.
Yeah.
But the value of this week is that we've got 100, so we can do it repeatedly, and you build up
Experience.
the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you do, the easier it gets.
I mean, if somebody's at home wanting to graft and they've only got one, you know,
Yes, you won't learn the skill.
they
by
won't
just
learn the
doing-
skill.
doing
No,
one or two.
no.
Now, for example, my perfect match is slightly marked. I've got a fruit bud just here. Now I've got to decide what to do with that fruit bud. At the moment, I'm just ignoring it, but perhaps next time I could do it at a place where there's between buds, or
Yeah, or be very careful, don't tape over a bud, because if it grows from underneath the tape, you won't know whether it's from the rootstock or from the scion.
so actually, if I untape it,
Yeah, I would actually destroy that bud with your fingernail so that we're not confused later when we get this unknown shoot coming from under the tape.
Because I know when the tape comes off, there's a small amount of callus.
That's
So
right,
you might
yeah.
be able to tell.
Yes.
There's a lot more to this than somebody who's never done it would realise, isn't there?
Did you want to have a look at a close-up of that one, Julie? Let's just put my hand behind it so you can... Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's...
So it's got to be insect-proof and waterproof.
So, this bit here, what's
Yeah.
sticking out, what's...
Well, it's because the rootstock is actually thicker than the scion wood I've grafted to
got
it.
you. Oh, of course, if you look
Yeah.
here, folks, and then look here,
Yeah,
you can see that there's a difference. Got you.
yeah.
Nigel, do you fancy talking me through to remind me, because it's a year since I've done them.
Oh, okay.
So how many buds do I need on the rootstock? Where
Okay.
do I cut the rootstock off?
Let's have a look. You need to choose a bit on the rootstock where the grain is nice and straight. Excuse me. You want about 6 inches from the root, so you
Yeah.
could cut it somewhere around here.
Yeah.
That looks nice and straight there, and so does that.
somehow it's,
I think I
Yeah.
would
I
say
mean,
just
hold-
below
really,
that bud
really
there would be good.
Fine, okay.
this is the most difficult bit.
And cut it
Ah.
straight.
No, I
Straight,
think
yeah.
I've got it perfectly, but if I look down here,
And then, if you do a cutting like that, just under a bud,
Got
that
you.
makes this more likely to root when you stick it in
Right.
the compost. So
Oh,
I'll go and put that in
leg up
the
there.
Lovely.
top down there.
So you're going to root
that air
that,
gap
so
So
you've
I'm
got
gonna
some
hold
more rootstock.
Yeah.
really, really tightly together, and try and eliminate that air gap. As
So I just need the top of the cutting, don't I?
Let's have a look. Yeah, so now you want
So
a
value of having the
piece
tape
of
ready
this. This
before
is the
you start,
scion wood, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Don't you need the terminal bud?
You always work from this end.
Oh, right, okay.
So if that's far too thick and
Mm.
not really graftable,
It's a bit
Oh,
thicker.
I
Yeah,
keep
I
thinking
would
I'm going to
probably
knock the
start
top
from there.
bit.
start. I would
That's
discard that. There's
Yeah.
the
What's
old
the
bud.
rootstock what you're
Yeah.
using on here?
So I
Is
cut
it
off above
Yeah.
that bud.
going to be
Yeah.
a full-size tree or...? Yeah.
At the moment, we're doing all the MM106
So
together.
that's
So
some
what
wood
does
that
the...
can be thrown.
Because it means
Yeah.
nothing to me,
Have we got a place where we've been in?
All the numbers.
the
Bits that we
numbers,
don't
yeah.
really don't
I,
want.
in my mind,
I
the
think most people falling on the floor would be
MM106
quite
is going to be
Yeah.
a story and a half high.
Right.
You
I
really don't
suppose a
want that.
dwarfing
Okay.
rootstock, which is going to be a person
Right.
high.
What sort of
Yeah,
graft?
yeah.
So when you want to try
I was going to...
Um,
I didn't...
pick
So
the apple.
I just
how
answered
did
it
they
like
get the
that.
numbers
The
and
whip and tom.
the letters?
Yeah.
How did that... Is there any
So that's the
reason for that?
not
I
the V
presume
graft is
it's-
where you do it,
Some nurseryman.
or did you do a
who's
slot
set up
straight
the
down the
process.
middle?
Slot
And it's probably
down
got
the
hundreds of
side.
different things.
Yeah.
Is that?
Slot in
Yes.
this
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
MM, I
and
think,
then...
is the
Yeah.
way people
Angled it.
So
categorise
what you can
things,
do-
putting MM. I'm not quite sure.
Can you remember how you
Oh,
do
there might be. Nigel, what does MM stand for?
Malling Merton.
So he was the original nurseryman who.
No, it's the place.
It's the place.
It's the-
There was the
Where the
Malling
nursery
Research
is.
Station and the Merton Research Station joined together to make this particular series of rootstocks.
Yes.
And the motivation was the MM series were designed to be proof against woolly aphis.
Right. Which was a common.
It was a really bad pest.
Yes.
And M
Still is on my
stands
territory.
M is Malling.
just
They're the
Malling.
ones that were devised by
I've got
Malling.
Lord Lambourne at home.
At that Malling Station some years previous. So you just rock that.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to
So it
cover up that
goes
church window,
Yeah.
and you get more sophisticated because you can cut it at an angle,
Okay, like that.
so it's
Yeah.
easier to tape up.
I need nothing else, don't
And
I?
Nigel would say
brought
that
a
I've
graph
not done
knife,
it.
that's good.
I've
Will do,
done it
will
really
do.
tightly.
And then on
I'm worried
here,
that I'm going to knock
destroy
my.
that.
So that was the
That's the
rootstock
rootstock.
that you just put.
Right, you destroy any bud
alignment
that might
out.
get taped
So
over.
easily done.
Because you don't want to
And this is what
confuse
takes
the issue.
Yeah.
such
And
a long
then
time
what
is
you
to
do
get
is you do
so.
I cut that side. Cut the
I'm
other
trying to
side,
do it
and
so
just
the
keep
rain
doing
doesn't
that.
fall down here. So
Yeah.
Until you've got
do a centimetre
you've
above.
got
Got
to
to
take
keep,
it
got to
down
keep
almost
it
to
dry, have you?
Yes.
nothing.
Or it, yes, just to
It's
stop
got to be
the
flat and nice and thin.
rocks
at
and
the
the dampness
Okay.
from hanging around. I think. Now this bit of tape has
end.
gone a
Just
bit
take a little bit of practice.
not very.
Now, I thought I did something like that on both sides and rammed them in.
That's
Well,
really bad.
Well, that's the V-graft.
Nigel would
Yeah.
approve of that, but I might just cover it up with one more bit.
Yeah. And I remember about getting one side a good match. It doesn't.
That's
if
right.
the
Realise I could just
size doesn't match, it doesn't matter if one side isn't.
That's
And
right.
you don't try and do it central because then you get.
That's right.
You
You do
know
it
matches.
do it at the end.
Yeah, you've got to get one edge matching up.
Yeah. Is that the sort of graft you were doing? But,
No, I think it was the other one.
right, we'll do
But-
the other one now. Let's chop that off and do a whipping
Well,
time.
we could just do that one and then do another one.
Don't like them.
Oh, okay. Fine.
So, you want a flat face on here,
Right,
Yeah.
that's secure now.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to cut this 2 buds. Well, 2 buds. Now, is that a bud?
Is it worth knocking that
It's 2
back off?
little
Yes,
buds.
probably.
And I would
And
panic, so
when
I'm going to
you
do it for
graft,
3
I found that
buds.
if you've got a bud there, it's a good idea to turn
And
it
you do it
round
slanted.
and make your cut on the other side,
Right,
because
okay.
the grain is straighter.
Yeah.
You do the same thing.
Now I'm going to put this in my plant collection
That's
here.
right, yeah.
So why do you have to chop it up?
Yeah.
Because
And
every bud will have will demand
about
some
3 mil
energy.
from the end.
Oh, okay.
And if you're
Yeah.
tuning buds, it can't supply
You
enough
want the
energy.
energy at that graft rather than above it.
Yes, so
Okay.
the energy that it can suck up
Like
will
that.
be sufficient for a couple of buds.
Same on
Yeah.
here.
And I've done 3, so perhaps that's too much, but
Okay.
now just to stop this from drying out, I'm going to plant this and just cover it up. These are my ready grafted,
And they should keep
and
together.
I'm going to cover it with a bit of soil, just
Just a temporary measure, yeah.
as a temporary measure.
I could see them.
And also, the main thing is to cover it up with soil,
Right,
so
a little bit.
the next, you can pot it on in a week's time, but as long as you cover it up and the roots don't get too dry.
So
Okay.
you're doing a diagonal
Yeah.
cut right across both and then straight in line with the grain from both.
Yeah.
Right, I'm ready to start the next one.
That's right. Can you see now? That's a good fit.
Right.
Yeah,
That's-
that's a good fit, isn't it?
Now that one.
We'll take a break at this
Yes.
point.
Now I'm going to wax the top of all the newly grafted trees, and in here I've got a tin can with a wax mixture, and there's lots of different recipes. Everyone's got their personalised recipe, but I think essentially this is half melted beeswax and half candle wax.
Okay. And
Yes.
why are you? What's the idea behind this? What are you going to use it for?
This is going to stop the top of the scions from dehydrating,
Okay.
because we cut them off at 2 buds,
Yeah.
so we can conserve the energy, and all the energy goes into those 2 buds growths.
Yeah.
But the top will be exposed and it will dry out,
Okay. And that could spread down into the plant.
and if it gets dehydrated, then that damages. Nigel, you might have to add something onto this. If the top gets dehydrated, the buds won't grow well and it won't suck up
Oh, that's
Right.
right. And if
phloem
and if you haven't got any wax over the tape round here, it's highly likely that before the graft starts to grow, it will actually dehydrate, so it will die. So you've got to keep the thing. You've got to minimise the water loss for a period of about 4 weeks.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's a danger that the thing will just.
Is this a similar principle to sometimes when people have sawn off branches on trees and they tar? Do they tar them or put something?
I think that's usually to stop infection getting
Is it?
in, not to do anything about
Okay.
dehydration.
Right.
But you appreciate that there are 2 things going on there. You've got the plant trying to send out leaves,
Yeah.
and it's getting its nutriment from the stem. And if the leaves come out before the wound is calloused,
Yeah.
then it'll just be dehydrating the scion, the cutting.
Okay.
So you've got to delay the dehydration until the wound is calloused over.
So what's the idea of going over all the twig?
Well, the whole of the surface area at the top there will lose water.
Above the
graft? The graft, yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's a biological surface.
And
it's not.
No,
it's not
what I mean is why not below it?
Well, below it doesn't.
Is that because it's not joined together yet? Is that what you...
That's right. It's not joined together yet. We say it's not calloused. It's not actually biologically fused together.
Yeah.
And interesting, we're talking about these little spots on the cyanwood being the lenticels. And I presume that's where the water evaporates from.
I hadn't thought about it, but possibly, yeah.
There's one which you've not cut off here, so
are lenticels little pores?
Yes.
I did not know that.
So I'm going to.
I thought they were just white spots. Shows how much I know.
Now the reason why people have different constituents of the wax is that it makes it more brittle or more soft, depending on the ratio of the candle wax to the beeswax. And I've put a bit of olive oil in just to soften it because I thought yesterday the wax was getting too flaky, it was going to drop off. And it's the buds will break through the wax, so you don't need to remove it at any stage. So that's quite good. Ooh, I must be very careful not to knock these newly grafted signs. Now, I can see that some of these have got tape, micropore or medical tape on, and others have got specialist binding clear film.
Yeah.
And Nigel, you've used a blue tape.
So I quite like using electrical insulation tape if the scions are thin, because I find it grips very, very tight. But there is a disadvantage to using electrical insulation tape. It doesn't rot, and so you have to remember in September or October, you have to remember to take it off using nail scissors or a very sharp knife, because otherwise it will
strangle it. Yeah.
It'll strangle it. Yeah.
Let's separate those out a bit. Stop level. Oops. The last one here, but I need to just.
I've got another one, a last one over here. If you might like to do if I bring it over.
That's good, because I've got some more in the other pots.
Right. Okay.
Oh, those have been done yesterday. I don't know whether you can see, these were done yesterday and the wax is quite flaky at the top, so I might redo those. And we were saying before that the melted mixture is like melted honey or melted butter. But when it solidifies, it goes completely solid like candle wax, so you must never pour it down the sink.
Right,
and it's very complicated cleaning out the saucepan afterwards because you've got to scrape off the solid, cold wax and throw it into your bin, or the compost bin, before you do any trying to wash it in the sink.
Is it best to have a saucepan that you don't use for anything else? You just use it for the wax?
This is what I'm doing here. Actually, I kept it as the beeswax saucepan until the end of the season, and then I did a lot of scraping and cleaning in the garden first. It's not.